Hello there. My name is Mark Gottberg. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation of my master's project for educational leadership. The title of my project is Improving High School Student Attendance Through Teachers' Implementation of Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. So to get started, I would like to talk about the problem statement and the background and kind of context of chronic absenteeism, which was the focus of my problem statement. Across the United States, we're seeing more and more students being considered chronically absent. We saw that rate rise through most of the 2000s and 2010s to approximately 16%. And then, in a surprise to not many people, the rate almost doubled during the COVID-19 pandemic and remains high to this day. We account for illness and unavoidable absences by defining chronic absenteeism as missing more than 10% of the school year, which comes out to be approximately 15 days of instruction. And we, like many schools, at the school that I'm currently in, have faced rising rates of absence issues and having to conduct more and more interventions with students who are missing a lot of school, which is what kind of directed me to this project to begin with. About a year ago, the Detroit Press ran an article with the Associated Press where they looked at chronic absenteeism rates post-COVID in the school year of 22-23. And the map that's on the right-hand side of the screen kind of shows the rates really nationwide, with some of the highest being Alaska and New Mexico, some of the lowest being Idaho and New Jersey. Michigan sits kind of right in the middle. About 30% of our students are chronically absent, which is right about, like I said, kind of in line with the national average of just under 30%. We see that rate has come down a little bit in this most recent year. And so with some data that was published after I started this project, the rate has fallen in Michigan, but it is still well above 25%. Students, 1 in 4 students are missing more than 10% or more than 15 days of school per year, which feels pretty significant. So compulsory attendance is not new. Schools have been requiring students to attend since, there have been public schools, really. Since the 1930s, we started to see legislation, right? States mandating particularly attendance in the secondary schools. Students have to now attend through high school. But things really changed with the passage of the ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, which required schools to have a non-academic indicator of success. And that non-academic indicator of success replaced, or with a handful of other academic indicators, replaced the reliance on standardized test scores. But many states started to utilize chronic absenteeism as that non-academic indicator of success, which really ramped up kind of the gathering of data and the utilization of attendance rates to study or to really grade schools on their performance. As attendance rates and other issues rose throughout the early 2000s and 2010s, we saw schools, particularly in the state of Michigan, started to require the use of the multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS, in their schools. This was designed to help meet the needs of the whole child. And so MTSS is a 3-tiered approach, with most of the students falling into tier 1, general best practices in the classroom, things of that nature, whereas tier 2 and 3 are more focused supports for students that are experiencing, extreme absences, maybe not even just chronic absences, but extreme absence or other behavioral issues. My project is focused on tier 1 support for the general student population to try and reduce the number of students that are chronically absent. And so when looking at the theories and literature about attendance and potential solutions, I really came across two theories, as well as a little bit of rationale that informed kind of where I went with the product. The first theory is the functionalist theory of education, which basically states that school is an essential part of society in preparing students to function in the society that we have, right? We pass along our society's rules and values. We are as public schools, the transition point between the family and then having to be a productive member of our society. So students need to be in school because this is where we pass on those values, those skills that we have deemed important for being able to function. I also took a little bit of a economic slant on the issue in the human capital development theory, which says that not only are schools important for passing along rules and values, but schools important for ensuring that we develop our students' human capital, which is the knowledge, skills, and abilities that students leave school with that enable them to be productive. Economically productive. And of course, that's not the only goal of school. However, William Easterly in his book says that no country has become rich with a universally unskilled population. And so students need to be in school not just to learn values, but also to gain the skills that they're going to need to be not just a part of society, but also productive in society. And then lastly, I looked at staff fidelity of any program or any initiative that is going to be required of staff. The staff needs to buy in. The staff need to implement that program with fidelity, or else the program is likely to fail. And so I came across 4 causes of non-attendance. The first one is unavoidable. Absences. Students are going to get sick. There are religious obligations, funerals, etc. And so typically those research demonstrates don't have a significant loss in instructional time or a significant negative outcome on the students. There's also the conversation of barriers to access, low socioeconomic backgrounds, students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, or other barriers that lead to a cycle of absences, whether that be lack of the ability to get to school in rural areas or in urban areas, lack of childcare for younger siblings, etc. Barriers to access can create attendance issues. We also see an increasing mental health crisis in our students. Rates of depression and anxiety have been skyrocketing, and those absences do tend to be more frequent for students that deal with anxiety-based school refusal. But the one that I'm going to focus on primarily for this project is that students are disengaged. Research dating back to 2005 shows that students are bored, they're socially isolated, school is irrelevant in their minds, they have no positive relationships with teachers or adults at their school, and so they don't see the point in attending. And that disengagement leads to higher rates of school avoidance and school refusal, which is really about school culture, which is about the way that students view school. They view the curriculum, they view their teachers, their friends. They are bored. They view it as irrelevant, like I said. And so a significant portion of attendance, and of course there's some that's unavoidable, but a significant portion of attendance issues come down to this engagement with school, right, and school culture. And so where I settled, or what we then kind of looked at next, was positive behavioral interventions and supports. So PBIS is a common practice in elementary and middle schools. It's the rewarding of positive behavior, including attendance, but also classroom behavior, with the being clear about behavioral expectations and consequences for not following those expectations. Our school has adopted PBIS and has been in the process of implementing PBIS in a secondary school. And one of the greatest benefits of PBIS, especially in this secondary setting, is that it is shown to increase student connectedness to school and can reduce behavioral issues that lead to exclusionary discipline or general attendance issues. What I did find, and an issue that we've struggled with in our building as well, is that PBIS, if it's going to work, it needs to be backed by the staff. And most of PBIS research has been done in elementary and middle schools where it's been implemented. We don't see a ton of it done at the high school level. It should be different. And there's a lot of pushback to PBIS in high schools, primarily surrounding the social validity of PBIS, rewarding students for positive behavior. A lot of teachers have issues saying, why are we treating them like kids? Students should just do what they're expected to do. Social validity is the extent to which something is acceptable and meaningful as it's been implemented. And there's a lot of challenges surrounding social validity in the secondary schools. As students are older, they have more complex behaviors, more complex issues that they're facing. And so my project is really going to focus on the staff implementation, right? How can we bring staff on board to ensure that fidelity, or that our program, is being implemented with fidelity? And so the project is kind of twofold. It's a staff handbook, a PBIS staff handbook that was written by a staff member from the perspective of staff, so that it does not seem like it is a top-down, thou shalt approach to dealing with student behavior, as well as a professional development session designed to launch PBIS in the school, again, as our brand of PBIS. It's not going to behave exactly how a PBIS program would behave in a elementary school. We have different rewards, different processes that are more developmentally appropriate for our high school students. And then evaluation is multiple, has multiple aspects as well. We are going to evaluate both the PBIS program in general, as well as evaluate staff needs. And then we'll also use our attendance data to make sure that we're seeing the changes we want to see. So the handbook itself is designed to make PBIS implementation easy and simple, to encourage, like I said, that fidelity. It includes our logic and our brand, quote unquote, of PBIS, how we're doing things differently than what your traditional PBIS might look like, or what some staff are familiar with from PBIS in their children's schools. It also includes resources that staff can utilize as a reference to go back to some of those best practices, those tier 1 practices that staff can utilize in their classrooms to meet the needs of all of their students, so that we can see the program implemented well, and therefore hopefully see the reduction in attendance issues. This handbook, like I said, helps explain our version and makes it clear that we need support from staff, and we're willing to make changes to better serve our students. The professional development session is done to ensure clarity, to make sure that teachers understand exactly where we're coming from, to be presented by a fellow teacher, to be presented by a staff member, rather than a central office figure or an administrative figure that is going to make it seem, like I said before, a top-down approach. This way, it'll seem, and it is, a more grassroots response of teachers to engage with students, to form those positive relationships, to improve the school culture, so that we can improve attendance amongst all students, not just those that have extreme attendance issues, but all of our students. There is a little bit of background that has already been done. Staff has had input on the program. Staff has had input on the values that we would like to instill in our students. And so when you look at things like the behavior matrix that has been designed for this project and the professional development, it does reference some of the work that has been done since the school that this was created for is already in the process of implementing MTSS and PBIS. However, it is able to be adapted to any school's needs. One of the strengths of this PD and of PBIS in general is that it's easily adaptable to any school, any situation, and it should be adapted to any situation in any school. And then lastly, when it comes to implementation, it's going to be done over the course of a handful of school years, and feedback is going to be gathered so that we can improve how this program operates. One of the ways that we gather feedback on the PBIS program in general is through the tiered fidelity inventory, which is supplied by PBS Works, which evaluates how well PBIS is being implemented in the school as a whole. But we're also going to gather surveys and feedback forms and have feedback forms for staff to gauge how well staff is implementing, how comfortable staff is with their implementation, as well as to make sure that any questions that staff has aren't going unanswered. Finally, we, over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, will look through, we use Infinite Campus for our learning management system, but it could be PowerSchool or any other learning management system, we can get reports and run reports on attendance to determine what's our rate of chronic absenteeism. Are we seeing changes? We can use that same LMS to look at behavioral data, exclusionary discipline data, so that we can actually track whether or not changes have been made. And then if it doesn't, PBIS in the handbook, it's meant to be, I mentioned it multiple times in the document, that it's supposed to be a living document. It's something that can be changed. It's something that can be updated to meet the needs of our teachers and our students. And so it's with that, our sincere hope is that we will see those changes, that we'll see an increase in positive school climate, that we will see a reduction in behavioral and attendance issues, so that students can be in their seats more, so that students can be a part of the learning process in order to be successful. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day.